Today is the October 30th session of the Portland City Council. Please call the roll.
Udaly, Fish,
Here.
Hardesty,
Here.
Wheeler, Fritz.
Here. Mayor Wheeler is on his way back from Japan, where he's been representing us with the sister city, and Commissioner Udaly is delayed. She'll be here shortly. Could you please read the rules of decorum?
Yes. Welcome to the Portland City Council. The City Council represents all Portlanders and meets to do the city's business. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum during City Council meetings so everyone can feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions or the first readings of ordinances. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. If it does not, you may be ruled out of order. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, a yellow light goes on. When your time is up, a red light goes on. If you are in the audience and would like to show your support for something that is said, please feel free to do a thumbs up. If you want to express that you do not support something, please feel free to do a thumbs down. Please remain seated in council chambers unless entering or exiting. If you are filming the proceedings, please do not use bright lights or disrupt the meeting. Disruptive conduct such as shouting or interrupting testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being ejected for the remainder of the meeting. After being ejected, a person who fails to leave the meeting is subject to arrest for trespass. Thank you for helping your fellow Portlanders feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe.
Thank you. And Carla, please read the first item.
Item 996, request of Nicholas Combes to address the council regarding the national movement called Decriminalize Nature.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please just state your name for the record. We don't need your address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Nicholas Combest.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Nicholas Combest. I am here today representing Decriminalize Nature Portland and our 9,000 plus supporters. I was an IV addict for 10 years and was in and out of jails, rehabs, and mental institutions. This medicine path has been instrumental to my healing and inspires me to help others heal themselves. Right now in Oregon, we are facing a mental health crisis. We have the 4th highest addiction rate nationwide. The for-profit medical system has failed us. Low-income and marginalized communities are disproportionately denied access to care. And now in Multnomah County, we are facing budget cuts to our alternatives to incarceration programs. The symptoms of this capitalistic paradigm and the global effects of imperialism cannot be ignored. In our opinion, and in the opinion of many traditional healers, we have become disconnected from our roots. We have severed our connection to spirit. It doesn't have to be this way. Nature has provided solutions to our psycho-spiritual ills. Certain plants and fungi serve as tools to explore consciousness and develop a deeper wisdom. In fact, several psilocybin mushrooms are native to the Portland area, and when used in safe spaces with proper intent, the experiences are therapeutic. We have 20 years of research into the therapeutic effects of psilocybin, treating conditions such as addiction, depression, PTSD, cluster headaches, and more. Trials have been run at top universities such as Johns Hopkins, NYU, Imperial College of London, and Yale. Another plant medicine, iboga, has shown unparalleled success in treating opioid addiction. For the last year, our team has been canvassing the streets of our city, talking about the decriminalization of mushrooms and plant medicines. We have raised $110,000 from over 9,000 individuals and held 6 donation-based educational events. Portland Psychedelic Society is one of the largest psychedelic societies in the world. We have the means of donation-based education and integration at no cost to the city, and we have broad public support. In the last year, we have seen Denver decriminalize mushrooms, and we have seen Decriminalize Nature Oakland pass a resolution through City Council with a unanimous vote. Most recently, the City of Chicago passed the same resolution with a 50-0 vote. Here in Portland, we have spoke with our city and county commissioner offices. We have also filed a charter amendment intended for the Portland November 2020 ballot. We are seeking your endorsements and are looking forward to furthering the conversation with you all. These medicines also have a lot of cultural significance from around the world. If we look far back enough in any of our bloodlines, our ancestors were using these things. They can help reconnect us. And for those that were hunted and killed for these practices, and for those that are still sitting in jails, I'd like a moment of silence.
Thank you. That was very interesting.
Perfect, yes. Your timing was good.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Remember, thumbs up, thumbs down, please. Could you please read the next item?
Item 997,
Thumbs up,
request
thumbs
of
down.
Maggie, Portland Homeless Town Hall, to address council regarding housing and social services.
Good morning, welcome.
Hi. I'm hoping you'll find your way to a few extra seconds today. Okay, so.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Maggie, Portland Homeless Town Hall. So the contractors, the housing contractors advertise online to the general population. And what that does is it makes this home forward flyer that goes to shelters and people who are aging, disabled, who are marginalized by gender or race. It turns this flyer into fraud because the contractors are allowed through a federal loophole to have their own decide who goes into their housing. It turns out that the housing specialists are not going around trying to find out who's got an open spot to get their clients into contractor housing. And it turns out that according to the Government Accountability Office and according to this area, specifically to this area, not just the nation, they are off their targets by 67 to 90% in terms of subsidized housing, increasing the equity and their numbers, and getting disabled, aging, LGBTQ and race and immigrant minorities in increasing the equity into this subsidized housing. So Ted, I think this is charlatanism right here because it takes all of us, he takes this, his campaign manager takes this down to the Downtown Association. They're not taking this out to the shelters and saying, hey, you homeless people, come and tell us how it is. No, they have Ted go up and give a 10-minute opening address, and then they have a pre-selected formerly homeless person who's going to say how wonderful all the contractors are who are going to present that day.
Who is the who you're talking about? Excuse me, ma'am.
So,
Could you just let us finish, and then we can answer questions? Thank you.
if somebody has a question?
No, I'd like you to finish, and then we'll take questions.
What happens is, in shelter housing, you have MRSA, you have other infectious diseases, you've got TB, you've got pneumonia, you've got scabies, hepatitis, meningitis, bed bugs, lice, and fleas, and in the case of safes, no access to laundry or entire bathrooms with disabled access shut down. And the staff have come in with no infectious disease training or CPR training, and sometimes they're actually homeless people who have been living in their cars, or former heroin addicts, or former alcoholics, or who are being hired as staff member for disabled people. So that leaves a lot of people going out to sleep on the streets because in the shelters there's rampant theft, there's bullying on the part of staff and residents. And what happened to a guy last night was there's
Maggie,
an
your time is
epidemic
up.
of of people stealing stuff while they're sleeping, even though the Ninth Circuit says it's okay for them to sleep there. And I think that the neighborhood associations have organized an outlaw vigilante thing.
Thank you, Maggie. Commissioner Hardesty has a question for you.
Allowed by you
Maggie, you
guys
need to stop
because of
talking
your
now, please, and
your
let Commissioner.
application
Maggie, you need to
online.
let Commissioner Hardesty ask her question.
So if you want to
or you'll be
continue
out
to
of
talk,
order.
I have a question, Maggie. So I have a question. You've been all over the board. My question is very specific to the allegations about a particular housing operation that I believe you said is run by Home Forward. Could you go back and succinctly tell me what the issue is in this Home Forward property?
Okay, so, where's my thing here? So, these contractors advertise online to the general population
And
that
so
they
who
have
is the
housing available.
contractor that you're referring to?
These are a list of 15 contractors with
Okay.
18 wait lists.
And they advertise online for what?
These contractors will advertise online while also these shelter contractors and housing specialists who are paid by the government and work for the shelters also have their shelter participants apply through this program. But this is an empty exercise because these contractors can cherry pick out who they don't want, which would be medically fragile, disabled people, formerly incarcerated nonviolent people, migrants, race, gender, LGBTQ.
Maggie, you say this a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there are these people out there that are not doing the work that they are contracted to do.
Right.
So my question is, have you talked to Home Forward? Have you gone to their oversight committee?
Well,
have you? Right? Because that's where, right, the contract comes from. Have you spoken to them? Have you written them?
Yeah, when I first started going to the county board meetings where Deborah Kafori is, and I've been to some joint office of
So that's
homelessness
the county.
meetings.
And
Yeah.
I'm actually referring to the
The Home Forward.
Home Forward.
And they've been at some of the meetings of the county board meetings.
The answer is no. You haven't actually gone directly to the people that you believe are abusing their services.
Well, I would like the representatives to go to them because I feel that I have no power except to like go and report to federal HHS, which I've done, and they've actually pulled advertising offline. They actually have done it before where they've gone in and they've pulled advertising offline, where they've said, we have housing available
Okay,
and
Maggie,
targeted towards it.
I'm gonna
Okay.
stop you because I don't think that we're gonna resolve your issues that you have today around all the stuff that you presented to us. But that one piece, if you'd be kind enough to leave that piece of paper at my office.
Okay.
I will have Angelita follow up
Okay.
and find out if there's something to all the stuff that you've presented to us today.
Right,
But
because
just that one piece,
the-
that one piece.
Okay, the housing specialists are telling me that.
That's all the time we have now.
Yeah, your time is up, and I thank you very much because I know that this is near and dear to your heart. So this is not intended to be disrespectful to you, but we also have time certain items that we must get to today. And I just want to, I know your time is up. You've used well more than your 3 minutes, but just know that I greatly appreciate the passion that you bring to this topic. Because quite frankly, it is freezing cold out there right now, and my heart breaks for all the people who are sleeping on our streets. So know that we care about this. We care
Thank
about
you.
this, but we can't do this today. Thank you. I will follow up. Leave that document at my desk, and we'll follow up. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Next item, please, Carla.
Item 998, request of Charles Bridgecrane Johnson to address council regarding 77-day delay for this.
Maggie, you need to leave the dais, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you're well aware, but for the record, my name is Charles Bridge Crane Johnson. It's about the third birthday of the Bridge Crane. I think only Commissioner Fritz and Commissioner Fish were here 3 years ago when Dan Handelman and Teresa Rayford led the introduction of the Bridge Crane because, as we learned last week, somebody had incurred $10,000 worth of damages being shoved out the back door about the police contract. So happy birthday, Bridge Crane, 3 years since that closed session when we had to testify about the Bridge Crane with Commissioner Novick. As you can see on the agenda items, first of all, I guess I should definitely thank not just the national, but especially the local movement called Decriminalize Nature and Nicholas Combes for his testimony. I'd actually thought that there's going to be a huge potential for bridge building. One of the things that Maggie didn't mention is grants that are out there to protect pollinating nature areas and to assure survival for bees, bats, birds that do the essential work of pollination. So I have a feeling we'll be hearing more about that in the future, and maybe there's some room for some partnership there as we look at the great dearth, the deficit we have in services to help people recover from either homelessness and or addiction. We know that those areas, even though we've managed to find $200 million to rehab the Portland building next door, probably most Portlanders surveyed would say that we need to put more money into addiction recovery and emergency shelter, transitional shelter, those areas. For those of you who flipped through your little booklet up there, you had to read, and I was distracted if Carla said, I'm here to regarding the 77-day delay for this communication. And unfortunately, the reason for that is because this body, with the absent mayor who used to serve across the river as I think the chair of the county commission, knows that best practices are more often implemented by the county commission than by the city council. To speak to you today, I had to go down to the bulletproof ballistic glass that wasn't quite there 77 days ago and fill out this form around 77 days ago and wait until today. Even though I'm not thrilled with the way Deborah Kafori has disposed of the $69 million Wapato building, she and her co-commissioners at least accept testimony from every person that fills out a form the same day. I don't know how far back, now that Commissioner Saltzman is gone, I don't know how far back the legacy of Commissioner Fish or Commissioner Fritz go. But the reason you don't have this best practice for democracy is because you all were terrorized by Paul Adolph Phillips, now legally named Injured and Pissed Off. So I encourage you to step up to the plate with your values and improve the public communications sign-up policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We all agree.
Next item, please.
Item 999, request of John Carter to address council regarding a State of the Union on the affordable art space in Portland plan adopted in 2018.
Good morning. Please just state your name for the record, and you have 3
John
minutes.
Carter, thank you for having me today, Council. So we are nearing the 2-year anniversary of the unanimous vote for the Preservation and Expanding Affordable Art Space Plan of 2018. Art and expression make our city vibrant and worth living. But we have not much to show for this ambitious plan.
Could you move back a little?
Oh,
bit?
yeah, absolutely.
That way we can hear you.
Yeah. More and more creative space has been shuttered since with little action taken. The city is a blank canvas. Who gets to paint it? Who gets to shape it? And what story will it tell? I believe we need to create more opportunities for people to engage in the public life in a world increasingly drifting towards the private. We need more space for community to congregate and connect, more space for people of all ages and backgrounds to exchange ideas. Everyone has an inner creator. I believe this with all my heart, and we can help unlock this through fostering positive space. There's a vast cornucopia of potential creative output in this city, but it seems only those with significant capital resources get the keys. Who gets to occupy the land, and who gets to determine what gets built on that land? The tightening noose of rising cost of living, coupled with the need to work more hours for less pay, has led to a crisis of not only space but time. How does art survive without time, space, and stable community that establishes common thread? Large-scale development has costs associated that cannot accommodate affordable space without subsidy. I think we need to explore financial incentives for retrofitting and adapting existing space. This is cheaper and more environmentally sound. Financial incentives for tiny commercial space along with tiny homes, less square foot, less cost. Space for creativity with nature, encouraging development of green space and permaculture, particularly for right to return as affordable housing policy. Affordable housing and affordable commercial space go hand in hand. Market rate commercial space is high, and the terms often leave the tenant with little to no rights whatsoever. Think of triple net lease terms. I'd like to highlight that the art pods mentioned in the plan, which offer a path of low-scale development costs similar to the food carts, are a promising path forward towards achieving this outcome. But what's the next step? Let's talk about it. I would love to see a meeting hosted by the city that is open to the public to discuss next steps to implement the plan of 24, how this plan is going to look in practice to generate ideas, vision, and modulate the scope as needed that represent the values of the community. And just before I wrap up, I wanted to highlight my favorite points of the 24. Creative space certification. It's important to preserve future use as a resource. Expanding opportunities for rooftop creative spaces, exploring options to incentivize creative space landlords, refine requirements for new live workspaces, establish a creative space definition within the mixed-use commercial zone, incorporate creative spaces into the commercial spaces of affordable housing developments, art pods, and investments in retrofits. 2 seconds left. I want to work with you. Let's make this happen.
Mr. Carter? First
Commissioner
of all,
Fish.
thank you very much for coming this morning. Would you mind emailing each of us your testimony?
Absolutely.
I love your idea of a follow-up meeting to discuss next steps. We can also share the information about things that have actually happened. One of the things I'm very pleased with, for example, is we now have a concierge service at the Bureau of Development Services to help arts organizations navigate the bureaucracy. That's a big step forward. We're working with Milagro Theater to make sure they stay in our community and maybe bring some affordable arts space. Musicians loading zones, which is a relatively small item, but one that the musicians cared about. And thanks to Commissioner Udaly and Peabody and others, we now have those. So we are slowly but surely implementing a number of these ideas. I've made notes on all the things that you've highlighted as things you want to see. And again, if you'll send me your testimony and contact information, we'll take you up on the idea of setting up a meeting.
That would be wonderful. Thank you for your time,
Thank you very much.
Commissioners.
Commissioner Hardesty?
I also want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming in today and sharing that information. I share your concern that artists and other small business owners are being priced out of the city of Portland.
Right.
I've been working with Senator Wyden to try to identify some federal resources that we could have access to that would help us be able to create those kind of place-making opportunities, right? I share your concern, and the more expensive it gets to live in the city of Portland, the less likely people will want to be artists because artists don't do it for the money.
Right.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. I look forward to working with you in the future on this.
You and me both.
Thank you. Before you, could you just please remember it's thumbs up, thumbs down? Thank you. And before you call the next item, it's item number 1,000. And so I just want to address what Mr. Johnson said as far as why our meetings are done differently from the counties. I just looked up their agendas. Their longest meeting this year was 3 hours and 2 minutes. I think we would be delighted to have such short agenda. We have a commission form of government, which means many more things come to the council for discussion and for public testimony. And so that's why we can only allow 5 people, and it's been that way for as long as I've been participating, which is close to 30 years. Please read item number 1,000. Congratulations to the person who took it.
A request of Joshua Wallace to address council regarding the Pegasus project.
Oh, what a letdown, he's not here. What a missed opportunity. Thank you very much. That concludes our communications. Has anything been pulled from consent?
Yes, we have 2 items, 1005 and 1006.
And please call the roll for the remaining item on consent.
Udaly?
Aye.
Fish,
Aye.
Hardesty,
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye. Our first time certain, please read that one.
Item 1001, proclaim October 2019 Filipino-American History Month.
Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you very much, Madam President. We have a proclamation that has been signed by the mayor. I believe we have some invited guests. Mr. Lim, I'm sure you're one of them. Would our invited guests please come up and talk about Filipino Awareness Month? Welcome.
Thank you.
What a pleasure to see you here. I've been trying to get you here. This is what it took to get you here, huh? It's a proclamation. It's fabulous to see you, Mr. Lim.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty, Commissioner Fish, Commissioner Fritz, and Commissioner Daly. Thank you for having us here this morning for this proclamation of the Filipino-American History Month, which marks the 400th year that Filipinos landed in the United States. Anyway, I have people here that's going to speak for our community.
We have
Thank you.
4 speakers today.
All right, if you would please introduce yourself and then take it away.
Good morning, Council, and good morning, City of Portland. My name is Cheryl Nervez. I am the Board Chair for the Filipino-American Chamber of Commerce. I would like to speak today on behalf of the Council of Filipino-American Associations, which includes Aguman Kapampangan, Northwest USA, Filipino-American Association of the High Desert, Filipino-American Association of Vancouver, Washington, Filipino-American Association of Portland and Vicinity, Filipino-American Friendship Club, Filipino-American National Historical Society of Oregon Chapter, Foundation for Philippine Progress, Greater Salem Filipino-American Association, LWC Ingan Leyte Project, Oregon Coast Filipino-American Association, Oregon Filipino Lawyers Association, Philippine American Association of Eugene, Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Oregon, Philippine Cebu Dancers and Friends of Salem, Philippine Nurses Association of Oregon and Washington, and the Willamette Valley Filipino Association. I am a 1.5 generation Filipino in America. My father was a U.S. Navy officer, and without the resources of small businesses in the Filipino community and the Filipino community coming together, we would not have this opportunity to be able to thrive in the United States, particularly in Oregon. We have seen Filipinos in Oregon in our school institutions as early as 1902. And thriving as business owners as early as, and laborers as early as 1920. So I wanted to bring that and thank you today. We've got 3 other speakers today, and they can present themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you for inviting me over. So basically, my name is Randall Corsini. I'm a realtor for the local Portland metro area. Basically, I play matchmaker between homes and potential homeowners. Yes, that's another way in saying that I sell homes, but I do more than that. In fact, we all do more than that, on our title and our positions, right? So as a Portland realtor, I'm helping Filipinos invest in their community by establishing roots. When that happens, it helps the local economy with contribution in taxes and private donations. Another note about myself, I'm a board member of the Filipino Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Filipino-American Organization. These 2 great, amazing groups have helped me connect with like-minded Filipinos who want to make a positive impact to the city of Portland through community work, having a strong relationship with each other, and in our values of integrity and leaving a legacy for our children. And it is probably very important to everyone in this room as well. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Maria Teresa Dizon. I'm a recent graduate of Portland State University and now an employee at Multnomah County Health Department. I came from the island of Saipan, from the Northern Marianas Islands in the Pacific, 23 hours away from here, in pursuit of the American dream, on my own. As I make Portland my second home, I began to seek out one thing, kababayans, which translates to my countrymen, my fellow Filipinos. It was in those moments of doubt and homesickness that these small Filipino businesses that While pursuing the American dream themselves, the presence alone was incredibly and immensely symbolic, as it was comforting. These businesses were a meeting place and a safe space for people like me that no matter where you came from or what Tagalog dialect you spoke, you could sit and break bread together, sharing a piece of home, spanning from miles away. And these businesses served as the evidence that we as Filipinos can remain resilient, innovative, and caring for others for hundreds and hundreds of years, spanning from Morro Bay, California, now here in Portland, Oregon, and all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that?
Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. Hi, I'm Jan Mason. I live and work in Portland. I am the president of Filipino American Chamber of Commerce of Oregon, as well as other civic organizations. We have an affinity with our community, and as you heard, we have a strong history and a rich history. Our history is integral with Asia, with the Pacific Islander communities, and so we work closely with them, and they are our allies. We are part of the fabric of the city of Portland and beyond, and we are making history. We celebrate our history, but we are also making history. And we do this every day in what we do in our lives. We do it as attorneys, such as the Honorable Janelle Factora Whipper, who is Oregon's first Filipino-American judge appointed by Governor Kitzhaber in Washington County. Honorable Steve Powers, who is the first Filipino-American appellate judge appointed by Governor Kate Brown, as well as strong leaders like Julia Markley at Perkins Coie. We also are chefs. Chef Carlo Lamaga, who is the owner of Magna in Southeast Clinton. Chef Melvin Trinidad, AKA Chef Smelly at KTU's American Live, Afternoon Live. And many more restaurants, and as the Filipino cuisine explodes in our area, in our region. We are business owners. We are small business owners, such as Cindy Nelson, who owns Timbayan Restaurant, Jamie Lim, who you met earlier, of the Asian Reporter, Matt and Shannon Duff, who own 45th Parallel in St. John's, a wine bar. And we are one of the fastest growing populations among the Asian community, and we are making ourselves integrated. We are integrating ourselves into the fabric of the community, and through this, we're becoming strong citizens in our community. We are still an underserved and underrepresented ethnic group in the communities, and so we are all working together to lift ourselves up. There is an expression in the Filipino language known as bayanihan. Bayanihan comes from an expression of the community coming together to lift up their fellow members and neighbors in the community, in the village. And so we try to carry on our modern bayanihan spirit through what we do with all of the organizations that we are affiliated with and expressions that you heard earlier. Thank you very much, Commissioner Daly, Fritz, Hardesty, and Fish for supporting our Filipino-American community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments?
Just one comment, if I could.
Commissioner Fish?
You know, it was about 20 years ago when I came to Portland that I met Jamie Lim. Jamie is not just the publisher of the Asian Reporter. He and his extended family are woven into the fabric of our community and do so much. And I've had the pleasure of working with his kids on various things. One of them was a coach, I think, of one of my kids in the soccer field, but the footprint is wide and deep. There's an annual picnic that I believe the Chamber of Commerce hosts in Blue Lake. And the first time I went, I was not only just overwhelmed by the number of people there and the variety of food, but how great Philippine food is. And in fact, I think a new restaurant recently opened in Portland that's getting getting great reviews around bringing different kinds of Philippine food to our community. The Asian Reporter, the Chamber of Commerce, all of the groups that are woven together are making such an impact on our community. And I used to have the number, but I've forgotten, but I don't remember anyone saying it this morning. How many Philippine Americans are there in the region? Do we have a rough estimate? About 25,000. And then I never tire hearing Jamie's story of how he came here, coming through Astoria and through his service in the military. So I just want to add my voice of gratitude to all the leaders in the community who really make our community a better place. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much for sharing the things that you did today. I particularly enjoyed hearing about going to the businesses that remind you of home. I'm fortunate to live near Barber World Foods, where I can get Manchester marmalade and McVitie's chocolate biscuits, and that makes me feel comforted, as you said. So it adds to the richness of our community to have these vibrant businesses that remind us that we're part of a global economy, and that we all, for one reason or another, we're here together in Portland, and we're just happy to have you here. I'm happy to be here. Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to also add my appreciation for the Filipino culture. I had the privilege of being a 19-year-old in the U.S. Navy, being stationed at QB Point. And as a 19-year-old who knew everything about the world, I was committed to living out in the community. And I did. I had a house out in the community because, you know, I was all about blending in and meeting new people. I learned a lot that I have with me today from my time in the Philippines. And I am so grateful for that experience. There were people, Filipino people like to feed you, right? So for people who don't know, and so anywhere you go in the Philippines, there's somebody that you absolutely have to eat. And quite frankly, if you don't, then you're considered rude. Like, what's wrong with you if you're not gonna sit down and break bread? My habit of leaving my shoes outside the door is something I brought back from my travels to the Philippines. And people would say, well, you don't have to do that. You know, you're our guest. And I'm like, I'm a visitor in your land, and it's my job to actually be respectful of the culture that I'm a part of. I've known Jamie Lim for, actually I would be telling you how old I am if I told you how long I've known Jamie. But let's say I've known Jamie for decades, and we have been on the front lines of some really incredible fights in this community. And I can't think of anybody else that I would rather stand next to in a battle than Jamie Lim, because though he appears to be quiet, that's quiet strength that clearly has been reflected over and over again in this community. And so it is my pleasure to read the resolution on behalf of the entire City Council and know that the mayor made it a point to sign it with his signature before he left the country, because it was important to him as well. So please don't think that it had anything to do with why he's not here today. He's still traveling, poor guy. So down to the business of reading my resolution. And then if you would like, after I read it, Madam President, if we could take a picture so that we can remember this moment, that would be fabulous. So, okay, here we go. Whereas October 2019 is the 432nd anniversary of the earliest documented proof of Filipino presence on the shores of the West Coast of the continental United States. And whereas the citizens of Oregon should be informed of the positive impact Filipino Americans have had on our communities. And whereas in Oregon, thousands of Filipino Americans have made contributions to the fields of teaching, business, government service, agricultural, ministry, medicine, and other sciences, humanities, and the United States Armed Force. And whereas it is imperative for Filipino American youth to have positive role models and instill in them the importance of education, complemented with the richness of their ethnicity and values of their legacy. And whereas efforts must continue to promote the study of Filipino American history and culture, because the role of Filipino Americans and those of other people have been overlooked in the writing, teaching, and learning of United States history. And whereas this anniversary is a significant time to study the advancement of Filipino Americans, a time of celebration, remembrance, reflection, and motivation, and a relevant time for all of our citizens to learn and appreciate more about Filipino Americans and their historic contributions to our nation and to Oregon. Now, therefore, it says Ted Wheeler, but he's not here, so I'll say Joanne Hardesty
Wait a
and the rest
second.
of the city council, the city of Portland, Oregon, the city of Roses do hereby proclaim October of 2019 to be Filipino American History Month in Portland, and encourage all citizens to join in recognition of the positive impact Filipino Americans have had on our community during this time.
And we'll suspend the rules.
Take a picture.
Yes.
Filipinos like pictures.
Jamie, why don't you get in the middle?
Jamie will put you in the middle of the proclamation. And I'm gonna squeeze in right between this young lady. Okay, see, we can do that, all right.
All right, Erica, get us teed up.
You're ready. 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, so unusual.
Thanks very much for being here. Oh. How is that possible?
I know, right?
All right.
That was fun.
Yes, it was. Thank you for doing that. Item 1002, please.
Proclaim the citywide charitable campaign open until November 30, 2019.
This proclamation is jointly sponsored by Mayor Wheeler and myself. The Citywide Charitable Campaign is a workplace giving program that allows city employees to make donations to participating nonprofits through their paychecks. Since 2007, city employees have given more than $3.5 million to local, national, and international organizations. This proclamation formally kicks off this year's campaign. City employees can sign up to participate at www.portlandoregon.gov/ccc. And to learn more about the program, we have Janet Storm from the Office of Finance and Management and Finance. She's a communications analyst and charged with coordinating the citywide charitable campaign. And Tony Arnell from Earthshare, the organization he represents, partners with the campaign in providing the electronic portal that is used for the program's administration. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Janet Storm. I'm with the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer in the Office of Management and Finance. And I'm honored to be the coordinator for the Citywide Employees Charitable Campaign. This is the third year that I've been doing it. It's such a rewarding experience. This year, we have 11 city-partnered nonprofits and 10 umbrella organizations, and together they represent more than 450 organizations that our employees can donate to through their paychecks. The nice thing about this campaign is they can make a one-time donation, or they can spread that donation out over 26 pay periods. The charitable campaign has organizations that span the range of environmental services, help for the homeless, help for veterans, animals. Pretty much it would be hard to not find something to support that is worthy in this campaign. During my 3 years working on this project, I have to say I've developed a new appreciation, a renewed appreciation for the employees of the city of Portland. We're such a generous bunch, and I'm particularly grateful to you all for supporting this program, and also to the Bureau representatives who take time out of their regular jobs to really promote the organizations in the campaign, and also to the Charitable Campaign Advisory Committee. And I'm just really thrilled to be a part of this, so thank you. This is Tony Arnell with EarthShare. EarthShare is a partner for us in that they help us. They're one of our umbrella organizations, but they also help us with our online giving portal that the employees donate through. So I'll hand it over to Tony.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here. My name is Tony Arnell, Managing Director of EarthShare Oregon. So as Janet mentioned, we are one of the umbrella organizations. So EarthShare Oregon, EarthShare in general, represents over 100 national environmentally focused organizations. 20 plus of those, about 22 of those, are actually locally here in the Portland, Oregon, also state of Oregon area, all across the state. My job is fantastic because I get to tell the stories of these organizations that are ensuring fresh air, clean water, quality life, healthy landscapes, both in urban and rural areas. So my job is fantastic, and I get to partner with folks like Janet at different workplaces across the region. So thank you so much for your support of the campaign and your investment in it. The energy focused around the campaign is truly inspiring, and I've seen that firsthand in meetings with the Bureau coordinators who are representing their different departments across the city of Portland. So thank you again for having us, and we look forward to another successful campaign ahead.
Thank you very much. I will now, does anybody have any comments? Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Madam President. When you started talking, I realized that in January of 1990, my first job in Oregon was with the Black United Fund of Oregon. And my job was to actually convince workplaces that United Way didn't serve all the needs of our community and why we should expand workplace giving campaigns. And so sitting here today realizing that there are over 400 choices when it was really hard to get people to see that two would be a very good thing warms my heart. So I'm proud to be here to support this effort today.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Whereas the city's charitable campaign was established in 1989 by Commissioner Mike Lindbergh, and whereas the city's charitable campaign provides an easy way for city employees to support charities that matter to them through payroll deductions, and whereas 12 city-partnered nonprofits and 10 umbrella organizations representing 450 charities will participate in this year's campaign. And whereas these groups help make positive changes in areas such as the environment, housing, social justice, arts and culture, healthcare, and human rights. And whereas city employees donated more than $250,000 last year and more than $3.3 million over the past 12 years. And whereas the commitment to charitable giving is demonstrated by city employees year after year. And whereas the citywide charitable campaign opens today, Wednesday, October 30th. And whereas Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Now, therefore, I, Amanda Fritz, Commissioner in charge on behalf of Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby declare the citywide charitable campaign open until November 30th and encourage city employees to participate and help change the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are now to our next time certain, please.
Item 1003, accept the Year 4 report on the $68 million Parks 2014 General Obligation Bond.
Commissioner Fish.
Madam President and colleagues, Portland voters overwhelmingly approved the Parks Replacement Bond in 2014. The $68 million bond funded some of the most critical repairs and improvements to our park system, including playground replacements and repairs, improved accessibility and ADA compliance, new mechanical systems and swimming pool fixes, visitor and employee safety enhancements, restroom improvements, and more. We all agree that oversight is a critically important part of managing the bond. Oversight includes an independent bond oversight committee, an audit, and this annual report to council. I'm pleased to report that this year's presentation demonstrates strong performance, accountability, and opportunity. Robin Laughlin, Bond Program Manager, is here to talk more about those successes. Before I turn it over to Robin, I'd like to take a moment to once again thank Commissioner Fritz. Amanda has been the bond's champion, and her leadership helped Portlanders understand how it would benefit them and our cherished park system. Thank you, Commissioner Fritz. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to you, Robin.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam President and members of council. I'm Robin Laughlin. I'm the Bond Program Manager for Portland Parks and Recreation. And as mentioned, I'm here today to share with you the progress we've made in year 4 on the bond program. I'm not getting slides to advance.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you. You're welcome. Sorry about
What
that.
would we do without you? That's
We'd have one slide.
the regular question around here.
Thank you. As mentioned, the Parks Replacement Bond does provide up to $68 million to make urgent repairs in our parks and our community centers across the city. We did just complete our last 4th year. We track our years on the fiscal year. So as of July 30th, 2019, these are June 30th, I'll get it right, 2019. These are the dates we'll be reporting on. And there's a lot of information to share in the long report that you have, and it will be focusing on the 3 key areas today of performance, opportunity, and accountability. And as a bonus, I want to share some of the ways that the Bureau has been able to leverage SDC funds and other opportunities to really amplify the work of the bond.
And SDCs are system development charges or construction fees.
Thank you, yes. In past years, the bond program has remained consistent with the language of the measure, with project work focused on the 7 established themes of playground repair and replacement, trails and bridges, pools, protecting workers, Pioneer Courthouse Square, accessibility, and restrooms, and other urgent repairs. On the map you see in front of you, the black symbols represent the completed projects to date, and the orange symbols represent projects that are underway. Our performance. At this time, we have 52 bond projects all underway or complete, and of those, 34 are completed on the ground and ready for the public to use, and 18 are currently underway. At the end of the last fiscal year, we had spent $40.8 million, and we're on track to complete spending in 2021. In this last fiscal year, our bond team completed 10 projects, bringing that total to 34. And so we've got a nice big number of projects that are completed. Of the projects that are currently underway, we have 5 that are ahead of schedule.
I'm sorry, go back to that slide for a second.
Sure thing.
It says 15 ahead of schedule, 3 behind schedule.
Yeah, there's 15 that are ahead or on. Of the 15 that are ahead or on schedule, 5 of those are actually ahead of schedule.
Okay, thank you.
The 52 bond projects that have been promised to the voters, we expect to be able to deliver those within the $68 million that are available. And we anticipate any remainder funds will be spent on projects that are within keeping of our fiscal policies and the intentions of the bond to make repairs to our most urgent needs in the system. In making those decisions, I'll be working with our Commissioner Fish, Director Long, and our Oversight Committee to make sure we pick the right projects for the community. One bit of excellent news in the slide in front of you is reporting on our cumulative spending for administrative costs. We're right now at 4.3 of overall bond spending has been spent on administrative fees, and our target for the program was 10%.
Well done.
Thank you. It's a really efficient team. It's been a pleasure. Opportunity. This is my favorite slide that I get to share with you
Could you
today.
go back one slide for a second?
Sure thing.
Just, you know, there is an administrative cap in the bond measure that went to the voters, right?
I believe the measure was, I'd have to check the measure. I believe it was silent on the numbers,
There was
but
no
it's been an
administrative cap?
internal goal.
It was an internal goal, okay. And we're now at 4.3 cumulative?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, some of the numbers you see there on the first year, that's a lot of startup time, and we didn't have a lot of projects in construction. As we get further into construction where we spend most of the money in the program, that's where we see that administrative fee going down, because less of the overall spending is spent on that.
Thank you.
It's back to my favorite slide. The Bureau is not only working to improve the infrastructure for our community, the bond funding is also really being invested in the greater Portland community to ensure that disadvantaged, minority-owned, women-owned, and emerging small businesses have an opportunity to design, bid on, and build these projects for our community. Our success rate is laudable. To date, 31% of the value of professional technical contracts for bond work has been awarded to these firms. These are firms that are architects, landscape architects, engineers in our community. And 41% of the value of the construction contracts have also gone to these firms.
Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you. Can you tell me if you have the breakdown of this 41%? Do you have the demographic breakdown?
Yes, but no. For the 41% of our construction contracts, let me find the right number here. Of the 41%, 26% went to disadvantaged business enterprises.
And remind me the definition of disadvantaged business enterprises?
The state defines that as businesses that have been historically disadvantaged, and this represents a wide spectrum of types of businesses. It's typically minorities and women, and other disadvantages are allowed as well, but the applicant has to prove that they are had been historically disadvantaged. Did that answer that? Okay. So yeah, what ends up, I've asked some of our analyst staff to see if we can really dig into this, because what happens is you can be an African-American business owner and sign up either as a minority and as a DBE, so you can hold both certifications, as it were, and it's not, but I don't have a real clear way right now, but we're working on to find out within that D category, how many were women?
Yes.
How many were Asian? How many were Filipino?
That's what I care about.
Yeah,
Yes, because
yeah.
I know we do a good job of lumping all this stuff together, but we don't do a good job of actually disaggregating it to
Right.
say this is really who benefited from these dollars. And so I don't expect you to be able to break it down today if you say no, you don't have it. But I am very interested in knowing the specifics, so I would appreciate a briefing in my office about really the real disaggregated information.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see
I never
what we can
believe it
find.
when I see the percentage until I see the disaggregated
Yeah.
numbers.
I do have a copy of the breakdown I can share with you if you'd like.
So we would be pleased to not only give you a briefing on that, but let me add an additional question that I would have in addition to my colleagues. And that is, because I think there's some other good news that's embedded in this. The number of projects where there has been a MWESB prime contractor versus a sub. And I think Parks has done some really good work with the prime contractor doing the work that's a minority-owned firm. So if you could break that out as well, and we can talk about how you did that.
Yes.
Because that has eluded us under a lot of other contracts and other bureaus, as well as disaggregating the data. I'd be interested in seeing both.
Wonderful. And the professional service contracts as well, because as I read the audit, there were some questions about folks being pre-approved and kind of the timeline that they stayed in that pre-approved status. So
Right.
that would be helpful
We'll
as well.
get you that briefing.
Yep. And we are on our way to the disaggregation between the primes and the subs. I've gotten numbers here, but not percentages.
But the numbers are pretty good, aren't they?
They are pretty good, yes.
I think under Commissioner Fritz's watch in particular, not only did we get some prime contractors, but in the process, we achieved the goal of building capacity so that a couple of successful projects led to other projects because they finally got a chance to compete.
Yeah, I can just, pulling a quick number here for fiscal 19, our women-owned businesses in construction, a total of $347,506 went to that in total. Of that, it was about 50-50 between primes and subs. So,
Look forward to the follow-up.
great. Any other questions there?
Okay.
Great. So on to accountability. As we reported back in January of this year, we did perform a performance audit, and they were required as part of the bond measure to ensure fiscal responsibility. To meet this obligation, Harvey M. Rose Associates was hired to perform the audit at the midpoint of the delivery, and we do plan to do another one at the end of at the conclusion of the bond work. The findings of the audit confirm that we are spending in a manner that adheres to the language of the measure. We're operating in a fiscally responsible manner, and that our existing documentation systems are transparent, in place, and functioning well. The initial bond work, as touched on before, had an extensive outreach process that garnered a lot of public support, thanks to Commissioner Fritz and Commissioner Fish. And we are building upon those efforts, and our team has engaged in public outreach that's been tailored to each of the projects, as the numbers on the screen indicate. Our work around community engagement also continues to reflect our increasingly diverse communities' needs and desires, including specific outreach efforts to engage with Spanish-speaking, Somali, Vietnamese, and Russian communities. Our Oversight Committee continues to provide oversight for the program. We just met last week to present this report to them, and you'll be seeing a report from them at the end of this year or early January on our work.
Robin, I see that Zeri Santner, who's on the Oversight Committee, is here. Is she going to be presenting, or should we just acknowledge her? Well, Zeri is front and center in this picture. She's also in the Chamber's longtime Director of Portland Parks and Recreation. Zeri, thank you very much for your service. And she's now on the Parks Foundation board as well,
Yeah.
so I don't know where she finds the time to do. There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So our committee members also include Jonathan Colon, there in the back on the slide, and Karen Loper-Tracy, Zari Santner, Ken Richardson, and you might recognize Jan Mason. She was just here for the Philippine American Month celebration. Last year, they recommended that we look into the public's perception of the bond's openness and transparency, and to meet that effort, our public involvement staff reached out to the community to say, hey, how we're doing. The results are looking pretty good. More than 75% of the survey participants had heard about the bond, and the majority of them knew that it was for repairs and replacements in our system. And when it came to our transparency, 36% thought it was very good or good, and a really big number of people really didn't have an opinion on it, so we're feeling pretty good about these numbers. And as I mentioned, the Oversight Committee will be coming to you likely in early January with a report on our work, and is independent of the work that we do.
Okay.
So as you may know, all the bond projects bring quality, improved services to our community, and I'd like to share the few projects that we completed this last year. This one is an example of Cooch Park, where we were able to leverage the bond funding thanks to our partnership with Harper's Playground. We now have a new inclusive playground at Cooch Park in Northwest Portland, and it was completed this last spring. The playground renovation project also included much-needed accessibility improvements in the plaza so folks can get from the sidewalk right to the playground, no matter their mobility issues. The project also brought a new Portland Loo to the site. And I'm also proud to announce that at 2 weeks ago at the Oregon Park and Recreation Association's annual conference, this project received a state-level project design award. We're very proud of that and their work. Other improvements around the city include Raymond Park. We received a new Portland Loo at this site, providing much-needed services to this East Portland Park. And at Ed Benedict Park, we also made some restroom improvements where we increased accessibility in the plaza surrounding the restroom and made some improvements in the restroom so it can now be open year-round. St. John's Community Center focused on asset preservation with a new roof, heating and cooling systems, and some seismic upgrades. So looking ahead, we have just a few more projects yet to go to construction over the next 6 months or so, and these will be the final projects in the bond program. And entering this 5th year of the program, our team is really looking forward to celebrating with the community as Portlanders see even more results of their investments in their playgrounds, in their pools, and all of the different park services that they get to receive on a daily basis. So that's all I have to share today. I'm happy to present the annual report to you, and I wanted to let you know this will be on the parks website as well, so it is available for the public. And we have short forms of the report. You all should have copies of it, and I've got extras here if anyone in the audience would like to see them. We have this in English and in Spanish, and these will be being distributed to community centers and libraries across the city.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Daly.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation. Really seems like the Parks Bond is very much on track. You got one of the most glowing audits that I've seen in the last 2.5 years since I've been here. The auditor did have 5 findings and 8 recommendations in the audit, and you did touch on it, but I'm wondering if you have made any adjustments or addressed any of those.
Yes, yes, thank you. There are 8 recommendations that came in the audit that were to improve the efficiencies that we're already seeing. They just wanted to see just a little bit more tracking of some of the work that we're doing. We have all the data, but just a little bit more clear way to do it. And we have been picking those off one by one. I think we have about 3 of those efforts started or completed, and the rest are yet to be underway.
Great. And I'd also just like to say congratulations on the Cooch Park Playground. I was a student at MLC and worked in the before and after school daycare there. I will miss that structure, but it was long overdue for replacement. I also lived across the street from that park for 18 years, and there wasn't a single accessible feature in the park. So I'm really excited to bring my son there to see all the changes and enjoy the playground.
Good. Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Madam President. I did have a couple of questions about the audit, too. The first question is on the bottom of page 33. I'm just curious as to whether there was a typo around awarded contracts for on-call civic engineers. Because if the solicitation goes out in October of 2019 to begin the service in January 1st, 2019, probably wasn't accurate. If I'm reading this correct, it's the last paragraph?
Okay, I found it. Yeah, we did have a planned solicitation in August of 2018. Some of this got put off by some of the job order contracting work that was being done, but we did have, we've been using civil engineers throughout the program. We can only, I think the first issue of that contract was for 2 years, and it had gotten renewed for 1 year. So we had to issue a new solicitation for that to continue the work of the program. And there's other divisions within parks that uses those on-call contracts as well.
And, but there was a question about whether or not the pool of those on-call contracts had been expanded. Did you see what I mean about the date at the bottom there?
You know, I think you're early October 2018, that's the one, 2019, that's probably their typo there.
Okay,
Yeah. Yep, I think you're
So I
right.
would check that, yes, because that didn't add up for me. On the next page, the next to the last paragraph talked about a lack of sufficient qualified contractors in the Bureau's on-call pool. And so what's the process to improve that?
Right, this was the opinion of the auditor that we didn't have quite enough contract monitoring in place. And what the Bureau had been doing, we're a pretty small floor. And it's, walking over to Kate and saying, hey, Kate, looks like our numbers are coming down. I've got my program's schedule, and these are the projects I've got coming up. These are the services I expect to need. Can we get something going? And I know you need 4 to 5 months to get that going. We didn't have it written down. And it was the best practices that we perform, but we hadn't captured it in writing as a protocol, and that's what they were looking for, so that the next people coming along could have a protocol to follow.
And that's been done, or that's in the process?
It's in the process. Mhm.
I guess my last question has to do with what procedures are being put in place to actually monitor the effectiveness of the contractors that are working on these contracts?
Right, that was one of 2 recommendations for improvement that are really out of our Bureau's control. We've been working with procurement because they're the ones that hold the contracts, but right now we don't have a really good process for that. I have let Lester and his team know that these are some things that came up in our audit, and I think that's something we definitely need to work towards making some movement on.
I do have one more question, and it's about, and I don't know if this is an appropriate question for you. I noticed that some of the projects had the opportunity to have systems development dollars attached to them so that the improvements were bigger than they would have been if you were just using bond funding. How is the decision made that this project gets this SDC funding to do more improvements versus another park who also could have had more improvements? How are those decisions made, and where are they made?
It's one of the joys of being the Parks Commissioner is that you get to make those decisions.
The Parks Commissioner makes that decision? And is it based on some priority list or something?
It's based on the equity score of the location. There's various different factors that go into that decision.
I look forward to talking to you about that more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Colleagues, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
Carla, please call the roll.
Udaley?
Aye.
Fish?
Well, I want to thank the whole Parks team for their stellar work. I want to thank our oversight body, and I want to thank all of the employees of Portland Parks and Rec who have been implementing the bond programs and our community partners. I've had the great pleasure of being at a number of ribbon cuttings over the last couple months. The work is really terrific. The public communication started by my predecessor and continued under me, I think continues to be strong. The audit is strong, and we're achieving numbers that I think anyone contemplating a future bond measure would envy in terms of hitting our mark. It takes a whole team effort, so I don't want to single out anyone in particular. Robin, you're in charge, so thank you. And I'm very pleased to accept this report. Aye.
Hardesty?
Aye.
Fritz?
Robin, thank you very much for your work and for the entire team's work on this. We've got other colleagues here as well. It was a 100-day campaign to pass this bond measure. I did the first 60 days, and then from the end of September to November, Commissioner Fish jumped right in and helped out. The voters did overwhelmingly approve it, and it's really important when you're raising more money from taxpayers to remember that the taxpayers are going to want to know that it's been spent wisely. And so I really appreciate the report. The audit is fantastic. But most of all, it's the joy that you see when you go to these places where there was rotting structures, as Commissioner Udaley said, or there was nothing, and a restroom is now there for people to use. And we did look at where can we leverage the investments of system development charges to make a better project. That Gabriel Park is going to be a fully accessible playground because of being able to add in. Because again, we promised the voters this was just for fixing stuff. So it wasn't for really exciting new stuff. So fortunately, we had the other stream of money to be able to do those improvements. So I'm really pleased with this report, and thank you, Commissioner Fish, for your ongoing leadership of the Bureau.
Thank you.
Next item, please. The regular agenda. We're finally to the regular agenda.
Item 1007, authorize the acquisition of 1.87 acres of real property at 35319 Southeast Carpenter Lane in the amount of $800,000 to be used for the Bull Run filtration project.
This is the second reading. We previously held a hearing and took public testimony. Please call the roll.
Udaly?
Aye.
Fish?
Well, I've struggled with this one for a lot of reasons, and I am concerned, as I've said before, with some of the new cost estimates for filtration. However, I think the case has been made for us to move forward to acquire this property, to keep all of our options open, and I look forward to a broader conversation about alternatives that we'll be having later. I vote aye.
Hardesty?
Aye.
Fritz?
Well stated, Commissioner Fish. As I said before, this acquisition is one step in a long process to fulfill the EPA's requirement for us to treat Bull Run water. We're purchasing this property for the land and not the house. I have recently been informed that we may be able to tunnel underneath it and save it to put the pipe in. That's something that will certainly be explored. We're also exploring renting it out until construction starts, and then if it's able to be preserved, we'd be selling it at the end of the process. We don't have a full design for the plant. We do know we need this property for pipe alignment, regardless of the length or the number of pipes we select in the design process. We'll be bringing both the design contract, which will allow us to pay for design services, and a resolution that will provide direction for the design of the plant on November 13. We are being responsible to the ratepayers as the property is being purchased under the broker's estimate and from a willing seller, which means we have avoided the costly and time-consuming process of eminent domain. Thank you to everybody who's provided feedback on the process, to my senior policy advisor, Christina Nieves, my chief of staff, Tim Crail. Thank you, Water Bureau staff who continue to engage the community near the site, particularly Bonita Oswald and the community engagement team at the Water Bureau. Thank you to the neighbors of the site for your continued participation in figuring out how to minimize the impacts as much as possible. Thank you, Ben Gossett, Right-of-Way Acquisition Manager, Dave Peters, Principal Engineer and Project Manager, and Gabriel Solmer, the Deputy Director, and Director Mike Sturr. Aye. And then the next one is also a second reading.
Item 1008, amend Public Improvements Code to make requesting and participation in Bureau of Environmental Services administrative reviews more customer-friendly.
Thank you. This is also a second reading, and we've also heard testimony on this. Please call the roll.
Udaly?
Aye.
Fish?
I want to thank Rochelle Altman for her presentation last week. I think my colleagues would agree it was one of the better presentations that we've received in a long time. It was thorough, complete. She answered all the questions directly. She had a command of the material. I am generally proud of the work of BES, but when we get presentations like that on very complicated matters, and someone has taken the time to really make it accessible to us as decision makers, I'm particularly grateful. So, Rochelle, thank you wherever you are, and to our team at BES, and I'm pleased to vote aye.
Hardesty?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye. We'll now go back to the items that were pulled from consent. Please read 1005.
Amend a contract with Schwer's Technologies, Inc. to include pre-allocated funds of $450,000 for handheld parking enforcement device replacement and infrastructure modernization.
And who pulled this, please?
Mr. Lightning pulled this.
Good morning.
Good morning, folks. Mike Krebs, Division Manager for Parking Enforcement. I'm here to talk about this particular amendment. So I'll start off with, real quick, we've been with Schwer's for almost 15 years, and currently we operate the Schwer's handheld X600. It is beginning to wear out, and we're looking to purchase a new handheld. And to give you some background on the
old cell phones, the old cell phones that were as big as a brick.
That is big, but what happens, what can you think about this? The actual paper actually prints out of here, so you issue the citation here, and it comes out on this side right here. So it actually is kind of nice, but they are doing away with this. This is going bye-bye. And now we're going to go to the TC750, which is a little smaller, which then you then have a printer on your side. And I think what I want to make clear on this contract is, so We've been with Schweers for 15 years, and in 2014, we wanted to take a look at some other handhelds. We put out an RFP, and we chose Schweers again for a 5-year contract with an option to renew for 5 additional years. And so that meant the contract expired October 9th of this year. And what happened is that we were testing this out, and in mid-September, I talked to Ira. I said, Ira, let's go ahead and proceed with purchasing these. And as we went to proceed to purchase, we realized that the $450,000 that had been set aside had not actually been placed in the contract. So it actually slowed us down. So 2 things are at play here is that the contract expired, but we have Procurement Services has assured us that they can renew it and make it retroactive to October 9th, and that we can actually add the $450,000 into the contract so we can then purchase these new handhelds. And one of the things I mentioned before, we have an option to go 5 additional years. I've chosen to only go 2 with Schweers. And I want to make sure that this new handheld works as they say it's going to work. I didn't want to commit to a complete 5 years. But I request that you place the $450 into the contract, which will soon be signed and retroactively set back to October 9th, which will allow us to start making purchases if you folks decide to go ahead and add it to the contract.
Madam President.
Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you. I had also asked to have this pulled because I
Yes.
also noticed that the contract had expired.
Correct.
And I was wondering why we were buying equipment from a company where the contract we have has expired.
Yeah. You want me to explain that further?
No, I think you just did,
Okay.
didn't you? Unless you got more.
No, I thought I explained it further. I just want to make sure I'm correct.
Oh, no,
That's
no,
my
no,
fault. I should have started earlier. I should have known that it would take longer than this. And I should have also known that we had to take the $450 from our budget and put it in the contract. That's totally on me. Ira can say I told you so.
I have no problem with that. I mean, we all sometimes get behind it stuff. I didn't have a problem with that, but I am very happy to have on the record that there is a process currently happening.
Correct.
Where there will be a contract. I didn't want to give you $450,000 and you didn't have a contract.
Correct.
To actually do the work that we need to have done.
Right.
So in the 2 years, what is your plan? No, I have 2 questions actually. One, is there a penalty for signing a 2-year contract versus a 5-year contract? Which means, is it going to cost us more because we have a shorter contract? No?
No, there's no penalty. And one good thing about it is this particular machine right here, the hardware, if we decide in 2 years to go to somebody else, all they've got to do is take it and we can use the exact same hardware. We don't have to go out and buy new hardware, which I think this will last more than 2 years. And there's other vendors out there with software and operating systems that this will work on. So we feel comfortable with that.
Okay, you feel comfortable with that, I feel comfortable with that. Thank you.
I appreciate
That answers
that.
my question.
Thank
Have
you.
anything else to add? Thank you very much.
Kind of fighting a little bit of a cold, not talking to her.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, Mike.
Thank you very much. So we'll take public testimony. Thank you.
I didn't have a sign-up sheet, but.
Right, anybody who would like to testify on this?
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to talk about this contract.
Good morning, Commissioners. Charles Bridge Crane Johnson for the record, and I'd particularly like to thank Commissioner Hardesty for her diligence in seeing that we had the small glitch with the contract date here. This is something I can look forward to you all unanimously improving. It's a TriMet pay. Many bizarre and obfuscated things happen around here, but my understanding is that parking revenue helps fund TriMet, perhaps more even than TriMet fares fund TriMet. So I'm not sure if that's accurate or if you want to comment on that. But I appreciate you buying this lighter weight, more efficient equipment for the people who have to lug it around all day. I'm not sure how many of them have groovy city bicycles. That'd be another tidbit that'd be interesting to learn. But thank you. I look forward to your unanimous support for this. Thanks.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Karma. One of the issues I have on this is that there was actually a not to exceed price on the contract, the original contract of $1,057,000. Now, with this allocated money transferred over, it kicks our amount up to $1,457,000. I have concerns on that. One of the issues I have a concern on also is on the handheld device of the X600. It was my understanding we were having some problems with the citation data and losing that data. I am currently at this time requesting the auditors to do a complete audit on any and all information. And was this in any way jeopardized by any type of a cyber attack through Trojan horse, spyware, or anything else that could have done this? So I want this to be looked at very close. My next position is that they said that there was a problem on the software back 2 years ago, yet my understanding, what was done to correct that problem? How much money did we lose, and do they have any type of insurance to cover our losses before we negotiate and sign into this new contract? Again, we clearly had a problem here of losing citation data. This is a big problem. Where did that data go? Why did we lose it? And is there a reason now that we need to be concerned? My other issue on this is that we need to follow up on the breach of contract on this agreement, because they were supposed to implement the corrections in a timely manner, and did this company do that? Yet now we're coming back and we're going to renew the agreement with them. So I have some very serious problems at this time on this whole situation. I would like to have this held over on a vote, because I think this needs to be looked at very close. Again, loss of data, what happened, what was the problem, and how much did the taxpayers lose of the money? How much did we lose? This is a big concern to me that I think needs to be addressed. Other than that, I have a problem with dealing with these companies out of New Jersey, which this company is out of New Jersey. I like more local companies. I don't like to be giving our money to New Jersey, sorry. But I think we should look at this very close and understand they were in breach on this contract. I take it very serious. I look at this as a cybersecurity attack, and I want to understand what happened to this data. Thank you.
This is an emergency ordinance. Please call the roll.
Udaly?
Aye.
Fish?
Aye.
Hardesty? Aye. Fritz?
Aye. And the last item on the regular agenda, on the consent agenda.
Item 1006, accept the fiscal year 2019 Department of Homeland Security Urban Areas Initiative grant in the amount of $3,118,080 from the Oregon Department of Emergency Management to enhance emergency preparedness through planning, training, and equipping of emergency responders in the Portland urban area.
Who pulled this one, please?
Lightning also.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm Beth Crane. I'm here from the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management if you have any questions about this ordinance.
Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say this is a grant that we apply for and we share regionally to make sure that our region is protected in the event of a severe emergency. Nothing new about this one. It's just like the last one and the one before that.
Thank you.
That's
and thank you
correct.
for being here in case we had questions.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, anybody who'd like to testify on this, please come on up. State your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson. And as you know, I've never found significant enough strings on any grant that we could afford to say no to it. It was interesting in talking with other people who have done more research into the Oregon Military Department and how they maintain their page on the Oregon.gov website and some of the language that's in use there that I think the values of the city don't exactly line up with. But I trust the leadership of the city if it's not about the Water Bureau not remembering to put parts to their plants. And I look forward to us getting this money and y'all wisely administering it to keep us safe as we have to keep ourselves safe, but you need resources to partner with local resource groups that work on community safety. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Karma. One of the concerns I have with is when we're dealing with the Department of Homeland Security, and this is a kind of a pass-through grant, which I mentioned to Mr. Johnson this morning and asked him his opinion who this was. My main concern is on the Oregon Military Department, I'm sorry, who they are and what they do. Now, maybe one of the commissioners or will be able to answer this after my presentation, because normally, I guess where my position is, I'd like to maybe have a discussion with the Oregon Military Department on their position on immigration. I'd like to understand what their thoughts are, what they think about building the wall, how they think the Trump administration is doing on the immigration policies currently. And one of the reasons why I want to do that is I want to understand who really is the Oregon Military Department. Now, through some of my just research on looking at the surface, they also train the Oregon National Guard. They provide training, but maybe you can tell me exactly who they are, how many people are involved in this department, who are the leaders, because I guess in my position, if I have a problem with somebody on some of the immigration issues, and I don't care who they are, I don't want your grant, I don't want anything to do with you until we have a clear understanding of what we're going to do based upon the people involved at the border. I want to make sure we're on the same page. I wouldn't want to receive money from someone like you if we're at total disagreement and I don't like what you're doing. That's my position. It's called resistance. Make a real stand. I don't want your money. And I'm going to make a statement today. It doesn't matter. I don't want to take any of it. So my position, like I've stated, is that I want somebody to explain and put it on record who and what is the Oregon Military Department. This is a pass-through grant. And do we want to take money from them? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This is an emergency ordinance. Please call the roll.
Udaly?
Aye.
Fish?
Aye.
Hardesty?
I want to say that I also would prefer not to take money from Homeland Security just because that is an organization that, quite frankly, is a fear-mongering federal entity. Having said that, I am absolutely confident that the money that we use here in Oregon does not go to build a wall, does not go to target immigrants or refugees, does not go for any nefarious purposes other than to make sure that all of us are safe in the event of a big emergency. I vote aye.
Fritz?
We're entitled to this money, and it's taxpayers' money coming back to Oregon. Aye. Before we adjourn, colleagues, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Daly.
Thank you, Madam President. In accordance with our administrative rules, I make a motion to hold an evening session on November 14th to hear a presentation and resolution on the code change project from 5:30 to 8 o'clock at Self Enhancement, Inc. Because each of the 8 code change committee meetings were held in the community and out of respect to the process, we'd like to continue to make this discussion available to the public at a time and location that's more convenient than our regular sessions.
Second.
Thank you.
What day is that? Oh,
Thursday, isn't it?
It's a Thursday evening.
It's Thursday.
If I can ask a question. 5:30 seems really early if we're leaving from downtown. My experience is trying to get to North Portland from downtown. I cannot do in a half-hour time period.
I have a similar constraint, which is how late the evening goes. So, I appreciate it starting at 5:30, so we have a chance to get out at a decent hour. Otherwise, I have to leave early. So, competing demands, but It is a Thursday, so we do have the opportunity to leave work a little early to get there.
We do not have a 2 PM scheduled either, so
Yeah, there's
This
no
would be in
afternoon
standard.
session.
there's no
No.
2 PM scheduled.
Yeah.
So that might make it easier to get out of here earlier.
Yeah, we wouldn't have scheduled an evening session if there was an afternoon session on Thursday.
Well, no, but that doesn't mean that my calendar is.
No, it's
full.
actually,
That's fine.
the first thing I did the first ordinance I did when I got here in 2009 was to change the code to allow evening meetings, and it's instead of the afternoon meeting, that's in the code. It used to be that you could only have an evening meeting on the third Wednesday of the month. And it turned out that there was never anything on the agenda the third evening of the month. So we changed it to allow any Wednesday or Thursday session in lieu of the afternoon session.
Excellent. Do we need a vote?
And I would just say, to address Commissioner Fish's concern, I expect that since it is in the community and in the evening, so that more people will be able to come, and there has been a lot of interest in this project, that we may not be able to get through all the testimony that evening anyway, and it may need to be continued. So we can be I think we can be certain that it will finish at the time that's specified, because I would be very surprised if we get through everybody's testimony.
And it's not an emergency. Yeah, I think this is really the
I'm just
best we can do.
previewing the issue because I don't like people to feel any of us are being disrespectful when
Absolutely.
we're at a community
Yeah.
gathering. My tank is pretty dry by 8 o'clock, so.
Yeah, I understand.
Are we taking a vote on this?
Yes. Carla, please call the roll.
Udaley?
Thank you, colleagues. I vote aye.
Fish?
Aye.
Hardesty?
Aye.
Fritz?
I always vote.
Madam President, can I make one last comment?
Certainly.
First, I want to thank you for doing an outstanding job managing the council
Well, I
today.
haven't actually voted yet, Commissioner. If I could just
excuse
vote
me.
on this.
Let's come back. Let's do the vote, and then I'll come back.
I always vote yes for evening meetings because I do think it's better when we can allow more people to get there. Although I would have to say, as now getting to be a senior, I've got my first senior discount this weekend. I was so excited. I got $1 off at Izzy's. So that was really great. It is challenging for me, though, to be out in the evening because I can't drive at night. So that will be a very late night for me. So with that, I'm happy to vote aye. Commissioner Fish.
Madam President, I want to thank you for the way you've managed the meeting today. You got us out of here around 11 o'clock, which is a mini record. But I also want to just make the observation that I've had the chance to observe now all my colleagues as president of the council in the mayor's absence chairing a meeting. And it has been my longtime view that well predates this mayor, that the function of the presiding officer should actually be distributed among the council, and the logical place would be the president of the council. Because I think, A, it's a burdensome role, and it prevents the mayor from fully engaging on certain issues. And B is, I think it's good for the public to see each of us in this leadership role. I don't know whether that's something for charter reform down the road, but I have appreciated when the gavel rotates, and I think you also get different perspectives on how to manage meetings, and I think it's good for the body that people get that opportunity. But I want to thank you again for the way you skillfully managed today's meeting.
I think it may be thank you for the compliment. I think it may be a charter issue. I would also, it's fortunate that I'm the president of the council this time because it means that my successor will not be president the first day in office, as Commissioner Udaley had to be. I would just urge those of you who will be continuing on this august body to deviate. It's only a council policy that we rotate strictly in order. And if that were to happen again, it was difficult because I didn't want to be disrespectful and think, well, she can't do that, and you did a magnificent job of it. But I think it was
You did all right. It was intimidating,
It was
though.
really stressful. So,
On day one, I just couldn't have imagined.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't have to assume
the gap, but
the
there were
reins,
times.
but yeah,
Yeah.
we had some big things come up during that
Yeah.
6 months, so.
Yeah. So just all food for thought. Thank you
Food
very
for
much,
thought.
colleagues.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.